And we are live, albeit, yes, we are a bit early, but it's good to test the technology so that we don't have any issues, Vijay.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm still wait. Oh, yes, yes, yes. We are live. I am on my phone. I can see that we are live finally. Let me just turn off
Yes.
my volume of the phone. Perfect, perfect, fantastic. Yes, we will, for all those who are already here, thank you very much. We'll just wait for one more minute if you don't mind, because we are scheduled for 10 o'clock start. And this is one key thing, is that discipline and habit of making sure that we are on time. So thank you very much. I think you are already world-class leaders. For all those who have joined us so far, you're already early, and we really appreciate and recognize that. This is why Louis Pasteur says chance favors the prepared mind. Isn't it so? And it's
Yes,
fascinating
absolutely.
is that when you're prepared, it really helps you to really grow and scale up as well. So we will be starting in just about, so in, correct me if I'm wrong, in a few seconds.
Yes, we have just
Yes.
about a minute here.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
you
yeah.
rightly
We
said,
just, yeah, just hang in there. We are about to start. I can see many joining in. So yes, we'll be starting in a minute. Uh, so yes, yes. So in how's the technology bit? Because that's
I
always a
think
worry
technology.
sometimes. I mean, we had a real scare last time, so we were very very particular this time, making sure that we are not having any technological glitches. It's 10 o'clock on the dot here in London, United Kingdom. A very warm welcome to all of you attending this live event on the 5 ways to avoid being overwhelmed as a leader. For those who are new to YouTube or LinkedIn, you may not know me. My name is Vijay Mistry. I'm a business transformation and leadership strategist, and I help CEOs and boards. I'm a board advisor and advisor to CEOs. And today's topic is one of the most important that we believe. Having coached over 100 leaders over the last 1 year, we've coached many leaders, and we have helped businesses transform. We do business appraisal as well, so we come across a lot of concerns, and this is why we chose this particular core topic, because many leaders had this problem of being overwhelmed, of being overburdened. So this is what we are going to discuss. Now, before I go any further, I just want to ask my business partner Soin Shah, who's going to even give his insights as well on this particular topic. Soin is based in Nairobi, Kenya. Over to you, Soin.
Thank you, Vijay. And I must say, I would like to say, first of all, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers who have joined in. Thank you very much. Take your time out to join us in this live event on the 5 ways to avoid being overwhelmed as a leader. As always, we work towards giving you various valuable nuggets, and this trust me, you will not be you will not fall short of your expectations in this session as well. One of the key aspects that I would like to allude to, and Vijay has already mentioned earlier, is that we work a lot on uh, appraising boards and their effectiveness and how they're actually overall working and gelling together with coaching CEOs. And the one aspect that is very passionate to me is in the form of ensuring transformational change to businesses. So one aspect that is very important, and that we have come across in our various discussions with various boards and leaders, is that they always have this feeling of being overwhelmed. And this is a very key topic that has been that is being needs to be addressed. And that's why we thought that this session is clearly required at this stage to address some of the concerns which we will be addressing as we go along. A couple of encouragements and aspects that I would like to take up, and that is one is to make sure that you take notes, and you will be taking $1 million nuggets away. The other aspect is that since we will have many participants who will be joining us in this interactive session from across the globe, we would request you to please give us a hi and actually introduce yourselves with indicating from where you are joining in, be it Nairobi, be it London, be it Australia, be it Canada. Please feel free to mention on the chat. And again, to make it even more interactive, feel free to post your comments and your questions, which we'll definitely take up at the tail end of this session. And I assure you, even in between, if we do come up with a relevant question, we will be addressing it to make sure this session is highly interactive. I think that is the major objective of these sessions. Isn't it, Vijay? We
Yes.
must make sure that the audience enjoys these sessions thoroughly so that they keep on coming and we give them even more every so often. So again, I don't want to take much ado. I just want to say thank you for joining in. Over to Vijay to kick start this session.
Thank you very much.
Vijay.
So, just a shout out to Mazin Gadir from Dubai. Hi, Mazin. Thanks for joining in. I'm sure you'll have a lot of value. We have Ali from Kampala, Uganda. How are you, Ali, as well? Please let us know where you're coming from. As you can see, this is a global arena, and we want to add value. We are in the month May 2022. Life is not getting easier anymore. Many stress levels, many frustrations. Uh, the oxygen of organizations is now a key concern. When I talk about oxygen, I mean the liquidity and moving forward. And leaders are really, really overwhelmed with a lot of these other issues taking place, which is the pressure of fuel prices and the energy costs going up, and with the supply chain issues, and there are very many other logistic issues in many organizations which we have come across. So the point which I'm trying to raise is that life's not getting easier. As we move, as we move forward, life is going to get tougher and tougher as well, I believe. But that makes it even more exciting. This is why we always say the journey is progression to excellence. That's one of our programs which we have. But the thing is, that is the whole concept that we want to talk about. And I want to start by first giving you starting with the 5 ways. So the first way, and this is very important, and I'll be using some metaphors here so that you get a better uh, grasp of what I'm trying to say here. The first point is driving. Now, if you drive a car, and I'm sure most of you must be driving cars. If you drive a car, or if you observe anybody driving a car, what do they focus on? They are focusing on the road ahead. There may be other nice looking deviations or whatever it is, but what is their focus? They are going to focus on the road ahead. They're not going to look sideways, because it is the navigation path to reach their destination. That is key. So, why am I bringing this particular point as one of the ways? Is because leaders, as a leader, you need to start by setting your priorities. Simple as it may sound, but what I would press upon you to do is step out, appraise yourself, and look into your core priorities. This in itself is going to change the game. I've noted many leaders who have formed this habit of, it's that business as usual mindset they have, and they keep on doing what they keep on doing, and you keep on getting the results which you keep on getting. And the world's moving at a exponential pace right now, which is a standard norm. So it's very important that you need to set your priorities, because as as a leader, your job is to forge ahead and look for solutions. I'll just pass over to Soin, because I'm sure he's got certain insights on this one particular first point, which is critical if you get it right. So, Soin, over to you.
Oh yeah, thank you, Vijay, and you have already done justice. But let me give my insights. But just before I give my insight, I would like to give a special shout out and mention Rebecca Jenkins, who is a stout supporter of Rent a Director, and she is more so a part of us with her Arjen group. And apart from that, I would like to mention Ali Junju from Kampala, Uganda. Welcome on board. Jabir Bachani from Total Solutions in Nairobi, Kenya. Lucy Duati, Nairobi, Kenya. Welcome on board. Amit Sharma, all the way from India, UK, and USA. Welcome on board, Amit. Uh, I think this is going to be a fantastic sessions as we hear more from our audience as to what they feel about this topic. But let's focus on the current point, and that is driving. I'm sure some of you must be culprits of this one, and that is sometimes checking out your phone on some messages that you might have gotten while you're driving. And I assure you, you must be thinking behind your mind that this is a dangerous aspect. But no doubt, people are doing that. And alluding to that point is what's happening in the business front is that similar things happen in businesses, and that's where boards and business leaders are focused on a current business. They're driving that business, they're driving that vehicle, but suddenly a shiny object comes to their front screen, to their front dashboard, and they quickly are completely defocused and enter into managing and looking into that shiny opportunity or project or something that is completely uh, different, completely disassociated from the current business that they are currently managing. So therein lies what Vijay earlier talked about, and that is setting your priorities and setting your standards, setting your focus in the right direction, right path, and that's where you'll achieve success. That's where you'll achieve excellence, not by being diverted or deviated into something that is shiny for a short term. And that's what's happening to a lot of businesses in Kenya and across the world. Of course, this is coming from our current experience, whereby we have had so many interactions from leaders across the globe, and they have had this, I would say, anomaly, and then we have had to uh, uh, correct, I mean, path correct in terms of where they need to be heading. So that process of appraising the board is really important and needs to be cross-checked. And really, the priorities need to be attuned to where the business needs to be heading. So I think I have shared my few cents and some points which I'm sure we have touched on, which we are going to be touching further on as we go on this session. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to add one more point. It's not only about setting priorities, but managing priorities. So here's what I propose you do is, because the global landscape, it's, at a very fast pace. So every 4 weeks or 5 weeks, appraise your priorities, look into your priorities, find out, come up with the right priorities, and begin with the end in mind. Just like what Stephen Covey said, that begin with the end in mind. Have that end in mind, have that destination. When you're driving, you're going to a specific point of destination. That's what we call spod. So when you are going to that point, what do you really need to do? Setting the priority is one thing, but managing the priority is another thing. So what do I mean by managing the priority? At certain points there may be a storm on the way, or at certain points there may be certain deviations, like for example, the road ahead is under construction. Similarly, in businesses, you'll need to course correct. You need to course correct as leaders. You need to course correct and find out exactly where that that guiding parameter is for you to achieve your vision, to achieve your goal, to achieve your purpose. That is very much deeply linked within yourself, aligned to your value. So set your priority and manage your priority. This in itself is going to help you to ease your time, and you will see the constructive leverage of your time if you do this. So that's the first point we wanted to share. And by the way, if you have any comments, please do share your comments, your thoughts as well. This is just an interactive session we are having, but we just want to press upon you from what we have seen with leaders who are struggling and the successful leaders. We've helped organizations grow 20-fold, and we have seen what they do. So this is one of the key proven ways which we believe will help leaders from being overwhelmed. Another key point, and I want to shift gears, so if you can change
Vijay,
that point.
Vijay,
Yeah,
just before
go
you
ahead.
move to the next point, I
Yeah.
just want to allude to this small aspect, and that is to on the same aspect that is driving, and that's when you're driving a car, you are focusing on the road, and that becomes your core priority. Now, similarly, I want to express that when in businesses you want to focus, what is going to help you to grow and scale up is making sure that also you have the right people pipeline in place. Yeah, this is very critical, and that's another aspect which will reduce leaders from being overwhelmed. When you have the right people in place, you can actually delegate, and they will drive the business in that direction which you are aspiring, which you have already set your expectations for it to go. So I will now quickly move on to the next point. I know Vijay is clearly waiting to discuss the next one. So over to you, Vijay.
Yes, Amit, I know you expressed a challenge in India. Hardly anyone goes with a calendar appointment. Let me do one thing. We will address this towards the end. We'll definitely, so just hold on to it, and we will definitely come back. Let me just share. Let's Soin and I, we will just share these insights, and then we'll come to the questions. Um, Another key thing is watering plants. Now, what do we mean by watering plants? Now, if you water plants, what happens? The plants are going to blossom and grow, and you'll see the plants growing, just as you would expect them to grow. But what would happen if you add excess water? What happens when you uh, you know put in more water or sprinkle more water than required on the plants? The plants are going to drown. They're going to suffocate, because plants need oxygen at the end of the day. The pockets of oxygen for it to grow and to blossom. And here's the problem with businesses, and this results in defoliation, as when it comes to plants. But here's the situation, and here's what we are trying to get at is that as leaders, you need to make sure that you communicate enough. Do not over communicate as leaders. And this we have noted, and we have observed this in some leaders, that they over communicate. Yes, it's important to be active listeners. Yes, it's important to have the empathy. Yes, it's important to have the emotional intelligence. We all get it. But here's the thing: over communication is one key detrimental factor, which hampers the growth of organizations. This is where leaders really struggle with, is having the right balance. I'll pass it over to you, so you can give a practical example. We experienced this, and maybe you can give an example from one of our clients what happened.
I think we have a clear cut. We have several examples, but I will allude to one example where we were engaging in this business in terms of transformation, and there was a clear culture in this business, and that was actually it was being set from right at the top. There was a managing director and a clear person who was managing the business. And what was happening is anytime there is a small issue, which can actually be sorted out even in a few minutes, with a clear cut way forward, and also some form of a delegation. But instead, in this business, what we saw is that A meeting was organized, and all the key key participants, key players of that business were called into the meeting, and then the meeting usually was lasting for between 2 to 3 hours. Now, what happens during those 2 to 3 hours with those kind of meetings is that a lot of other aspects, other important aspects, get neglected, be it customers, be it other stakeholders, and then what happens is you find that your productivity is completely lost. You have not done exactly what you are going to be setting out for the day, and then what happens, you have lost focus, you have lost time, you have lost energy, and what happens to the staff? They're actually completely demotivated, and then you find the leader is overwhelmed, that he says that nothing is being done. So clearly, in this kind of situation, every issue needs to have a better approach, in terms of maybe it should be addressed by a simple communication. And clearly, as Vijay said, no need of over communicating and drowning the plants. Let the right people who have been employed in the business handle those aspects clearly. They only need to be pointed out that, listen, this is not correct. Our expectations are in this way, and let them run with it. I can assure you that if you have the right people in the organization, and there are many, and you have surrounded yourself with the right caliber, who are maybe they have a better understanding than you might get you I want to say, I want to take back the word might. Actually, you will end up getting a much better result than what you would have expected. So this is where leaders need to take sometimes a back seat, make sure they have communicated in the right way, in a simple form. No need of over expanding on some things. There are people who are intelligent enough to understand the gravitas of the matter, and they will be able to handle this aspect very clearly. So I think you guys must be seeing this very often in your businesses, and I'm sure with this example, and the way we are talking about can be in terms of how we can address these matters, can be put to bed. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Soin. And again, like what Soin mentioned, there was a manufacturing organization where I was a company coach in that particular company, and the same thing happened. And here's the thing: is that the CEO, who was the owner of the organization, it was a mid-sized manufacturing organization, but the CEO, he sort of freed his time, but he didn't know how to use his time appropriately. So he would just engage with the head of finance or head of operations, and those become distractions to the pipeline of the growth itself. So these are just some examples we are citing. I'm not saying it's happening with all the organizations, but balance out again, go back into the appraisal factor and see whether you are over communicating, because that will be detrimental to the growth of your organization. I'm keen on making sure that we make full use of the time. And Amit, I'll be coming back on a couple of points that you raised. Let's shift gears to the third point, which is going to be the hidden gem. What do I mean by the hidden gem? Now, you might have heard of the story Acres of Diamond, and maybe on YouTube you can get it or you can Google it. I'm not going to give you that particular story, but here's what I mean by the hidden gem: is sometimes you have the resource within your organization. You have the resources within your organization, yet you're not utilizing to its fullest capacity. White elephants. We have seen companies acquire certain software, but the percentage of the usage of that particular software is just, a few percent. I mean, Soin will give you some examples on that. But my point here is that be more resourceful within uh, whatever you are doing. Now, so the question that you would be having is that, how can we really find these hidden gems? So here are a couple of things. Number one, we now have AI, we now have artificial intelligence, and there's a convergence of technologies coming in. You want a virtual assistant, it's AI driven. It, we all know it. You can have it on your smartphones as well. So this is a reality that we are having. There are very many functions. Even if it is the finance side of things, you enter a few numbers. I mean, we've seen these demonstrations, and we've witnessed these workings of certain functionalities where the head of finance just has to click a few buttons, and certain forecasts come out, meaningful forecasts. That's what I'm trying to get at. So find out, tap into technology which can help you to relieve some of your time. So this is very important. What are the resources you can use? This is why we call it the hidden gem. What is it that you can even delegate? Like, Amit mentioned, um, no worries, Amit. Will You can come back to this particular recording later. Here's the thing: is that Amit mentioned about him having a driver, so he can send all the text messages. What does that really mean? It means that you have to effectively delegate. Now, why do you effectively delegate, and what would you do with your time as a leader? Obviously, you're going to make sure that you are an influential leader. At the end of the day, you are inspiring your team members, your pipeline of stakeholders, whoever your stakeholders are. And what do you do with your time? You have to be more creative, you have to be more imaginative, you need to be more innovative as well. So that is how you're going to become more resourceful. What else can you do rather than suppressing your team members, which we have noticed? Soin and I, we come across this every now and again. We observe a meeting, and the leader is taking 90% of the conversation, suppressing the insights and the perceptions of the team members, which is, in our opinion, 10,000 IQ points. That is where the gems are, yet organizations really don't tap into. I think I've spoken a bit too much. I'll pass it over to Soin to give you other insights on the hidden gem itself. Over to you, Soin.
I think you've covered most of the top points. Just a bit of a touch on the point of technology. I've come across so many organizations that where they engage in purchasing this software, and SAP is one of them. And remember, it requires a lot of investment in purchasing that software, but in so many of these organizations, we find the software is not being utilized to its maximum. Most of the time, it's only 30%. I can give you several examples where production systems are not online. I mean, when you talk about an ERP, and I just want to expand on that because of for some reviewers, an enterprise resource planning system should make sure that all your resources are captured and are being monitored from input to output. So, be it inputs, be it raw materials, be it manpower, everything can be monitored in this. Now, what's the objective at the end of the day? The objective of this is to make sure that you're getting the maximum out of your inputs, right? Be it the inputs themselves, and that is reducing your wastages and also making sure productivity is at the maximum. Now, there are very key reports that need to be generated. We have encountered so many places where these reports are not even being generated, or neither being monitored. So, what is the objective of having such a huge mammoth elephant in the room when you don't want to utilize it? And remember, I'm very clear, because if these systems are put to use, they can generate so much information. Well, you have to be selective as to what information you want to get, and that's actually in the dashboard that needs to be viewed from. And I think we have transformed businesses where they can manage their business from the comfort of the lounge with numbers that are generated from these ERPs. So what we are trying to say is that it's not a bad investment, but making sure that you are utilizing those investments to the last cent. You're getting the value from it, and you're using that information not just to create a paralysis, to actually use that analysis to create meaningful decisions. And that's where you are also doing what you call de-risking your business. That's why these ERPs are in place. So, guys and audience, please feel free to tell us whether you have also encountered this kind of experiences. I, for one, have encountered so many experiences, and we work towards getting people in the right path to make sure these resources are put to the right use at the right place and at the right time. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you. So here's something that you can consider is take a Friday afternoon retreat with your team members, because we want to give you some tools as well as to how you can improve, and ask those questions. Find out what else can we do, what resource do we have, what is it that we are not tapping into which we already have. And if you really ask those incisive questions within yourself, just take a Friday afternoon from 2 to 5 or whatever it is for your organization, and just brainstorm, because this particular investment itself is going to unlock a different level of potential altogether. It will give you more effectivity as well as efficiency as well. So brainstorm on this and find out exactly what you can do to tap into that particular resource, which will help the leader, you know not be overwhelmed, as we put it, not be overburdened, because we often come across these leaders who they just don't have time, and yet they're not using their time constructively, not using their time productively, not seeing that there is a bigger picture, there's a bigger opportunity, and a more constructive way of using their time. So that was our message here. Let's move to the next point on this particular 5 ways to avoid being overwhelmed as a leader, and that is a fruit market. Now, what do I mean by a fruit market? By the way, please, for those who have just tuned in, say hi, let us know where you are from. Please even share your comments so that we can, we will come back to your comments as well. So please go ahead and say hi. Anyway, fruit market. Now, what has a fruit market got to do with a leader being overwhelmed? Here's the thing. Now, if you go to a fruit market and say you want to buy some bananas, and you see one which is overripe, so it's ripe, but it is overripe, you can see that it is turning dark, and it wouldn't be the right banana. What are you going to do? You're going to keep it on one side, and you're going to select the ones which are the good bananas, as we all would do. I mean, that's a sensible thing to do. And what has this got to do with leaders? Here's the thing. Leaders need to say no. What do I mean? Here's the thing. We have come across leaders who are timid, and they want to do everything. They can't say no, because they are leaders. They have an identity. They just want to be the nice person, in whatever they are doing. And for them to say no is, it's not a good thing. So as leaders, you need to be assertive, and you need to have your own personal guidelines of what you are going to allow within your boundaries of thinking, within your boundaries of the time. You and I, we have a set number of hours. We have 24 hours a day, and whatever your working hours are, 8-10 hours a day, or whatever the number of hours, it's set for everybody. So as leaders, you have to make sure within the pressures, like I said, we are in May 2022, where the pressure is increasing, and I believe it's going to still get more. We're going to be bombarded with more things coming out, more intelligence, more data, more research, more things coming out, some super exciting things as well, which we are expecting down the road. But my point here is, how are you going to um, make sure that you only allow what your core priorities are. You allow all the activities within your core priorities itself. That doesn't mean that you don't engage with team members and speak to them. Have your slack periods. And what do I mean by slack periods? Here's the thing: is that you need to make sure that you allow for that time, and we'll be sharing another point on that particular aspect, the next point. But my point here is that you need to make sure that you have that right balance, and you just have to say no. And no doesn't, it's not a bad thing. You just make sure that your time is valuable, and you have to add value to your customers, to your clients. So you need to learn to say no. That in itself is a key component for you to grow. So over to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, this analogy of making sure that you actually cherry picking on what is the right thing that you need to do. So always be clear on what you want and what you don't want. But on the contrary, when we have had our discussions with many executives, we have found out. In fact, there was one in particular I can tell you. That this is an accounting and audit firm, and this particular guy was not happy with the culture, and of course the culture was set at the top. He was not able to maximize on his potential. He was always frustrated, and really speaking, he could not say no. There are certain things that were going on in that company, in that partnership. He was not comfortable. When we asked him that why are you not taking action, it's like he said he knew that there would be a reaction which will be adverse to what he would want. So we asked him again, what are you looking at in terms of your path in future? Do you still want to stick to this kind of thing where you're not comfortable? And unfortunately he had no answer. So he's still, I mean, we're working on advising him and showing him the right path, and of course we believe he will make the right decision. What steps to be need to be taken in the current circumstances, because clearly he's suppressing his own self, his own growth, his career path. And with that kind of an environment where people are not going to hear him out and listen to his views, then it's a toxic environment, toxic culture. And of course that kind of culture cannot last forever. And it's actually detrimental to a lot of organizations, because they kind of they kind of face subdued growth, especially when they've got insiders who are highly knowledgeable, highly willing to contribute. But then with this kind of a culture, they are completely subdued. They're not able to talk. There is no change that they're going to see coming on board. And remember, something that is always there, and that is change is constant. I mean, you cannot do without that. So I think I don't want to take a lot of time. I'm watching the time, and being conscious of that, I would like Vijay to take on the next point. That's the fifth one. Vijay?
Yeah, before we go to the fifth point, so in just one thing is that there's just one point, and I'll tell you a success story. So an executive came up to me, and she said, "Surely I can't tell my superior no to certain things, which is not within my guideline." And I said, "All right, fine. Do you, I was trying to suss out as to what her sort of work relation is with the leader, and whether the her superior was sort of having outings or any days where they have retreats." And she said, "Yes, we do have a retreat once every quarter, or we go out for dinner, or we just meet up, and we have this discussion." So I said, "Why don't you speak to your superior at that particular point in time and point out that, look, these particular aspects are damaging the growth, or rather they're hampering the growth of the organization. And lo and behold, she did that. She had a dialogue with the her superior, and the superior took it. I mean, she said, "Fine, that's fine. I mean, from now on, I get it." So there are certain times you just need to have that right communication level. And if you as a leader, um, you just have to be assertive. You just have to make sure that you are within that right frame, with the right balance in place, linking everything, so you know that you got multiple components, but you need to say no to many other things, just like the overripe banana, which you are going to keep it on one side. So that sort of a concept is what I want you to really grasp, because if you get that right, you'll see that it's going to make an impact to not only your growth, but also the growth of whatever you're doing, whatever mission, whatever your projects you are undertaking, and the growth of your business. So this is a really powerful, impact driven way which is going to help you. Let's move to the last point, my dear friends, and that is Confucius. And there's a quote by Confucius I want to share with you, and it's something like, "The journey of 1,000 miles or 1,000 steps, 10,000 steps begins with the first step." I'm sure you must have heard of this particular quote somewhere. I mean, if you have, you can just type in yes. Um, so it's like, you know you got a big project in place, and I'll give you an example, our example. So one of the services we provide is business transformation services, and what we do is we start with a business appraisal. Now we've got so many components when it comes to business appraisal. We've got assets, we've got sales, we've got marketing, we've got expenses. We have to look into quite a lot of things, but here's what we do: we create some sort of a dashboard, our own framework and dashboard, and we chunk it out. So, in other words, you have to chunk out whatever your project is that you need to chunk out what, again, setting your priorities and putting it right. You just have to chunk out. Once you chunk out, use 50 minutes immersion time. In other words, what you do is, I mean, for me and for many others whom we have come across from our research, we have noted that the peak productive time is between 9 and 1. I'm sure even afternoon hours is productive, but 9 and 1, that's where the peak time is. If you can chunk out 50 minutes chunks and do it over the day, about five of those 50-minute chunks, what's going to happen is you will see the progress, the impact it's going to make to your particular organization when you chunk out a particular project and work with that particular aspect. Now, there was a challenge. We were coaching a leader, and what he said is that, Vijay, fine, you're talking about chunking and all this, but saying that, we need the other team members to play ball. In other words, the other team members, they don't their contribution was not as per expectation. And I said, hey, do you have the right talent pipeline? I mean, Soin was mentioning this to them, is that, do you have the right talent pipeline? Do you have the right culture? Do you have the right tone at the top? Do you have the right coaching? Do you have the right engagement? Do you have the right connectivity? Do you have the right productive meetings as well? So we got a whole criteria and list, but we have all these aspects when it comes to appraisal. And the point here is, you will see that if there is one or two moving parts which are not properly gelled, what's going to happen is, you need to make sure that you 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 need to communicate properly, communicate with clarity, as I put it, because clarity is where the impact is, clarity is where the power is. This is where you will have an understanding between all parties with the expectation that you are expecting. So, over to you, on this particular point of chunking.
Wow, this is a very interesting one, and very applicable to all aspects in terms of personal development, in terms of professional life. If you break down any milestone that you want to achieve, if you break it down into small steps, say for example, you want to climb the Mount Everest. Um, I can tell you for a fact that you not only number one need to prepare, but when you go and you set yourself on that journey to climb to summit, you need to break it down into what you can cover in, say, for example, in an hour, in a particular day, and all that is planned out very well, so that once you have planned it out, you can clearly know which day you'll reach where, and not only that, when you will be submitting and when you will be coming back. So that whole journey in terms of complete, I would say even sometimes you can go about documenting. And that's why it's interesting. Amit has mentioned some people don't diarize or don't have calendars. I mean, that's a bit of a shame, because then how do you organize yourself? It's important that you need to know when you're going to have which meeting, because you, if you are going to have many interruptions and many drop-ins, then clearly you're missing out on certain moments of your life. And remember, life is short, so you got to make use of the time that you have, because the other side of the coin is that you got to balance not only work but also life as well. And work is not the only thing, you've got to balance all the balls. So using that time appropriately and having chunked out everything, and having slots for all those things that you've got to do in, and having it scheduled in a correct, in a right way, is the way to go. There is no other way. And that's why a lot of times when you talk about project management, what's project management in a nutshell? It's actually planning out all the steps in advance and following through, and making sure implementation is done to the core on all aspects, and you are actually reporting on all the steps that you have achieved simultaneously with the groups that you have set out with. And this day and age, with the way software is, you can collaborate and do these projects sitting across the world in all the corners, and you can be achieving several milestones with the power of the internet of things. So what I'm trying to say is that if you use these technologies and you're able to jot down things appropriately, you're able to organize yourself, you're able to plan yourself, overwhelming will be a thing of the past. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Swin. Now, just want to give a shout out to Evans Nangulu from Kenya, Jambo Evans. Yeah, so thank you for your comment. Now, I just want to move quickly to the questions. It will just take 2 minutes, and if anybody has any comments, please go ahead. Now, Amit had said the challenge we find in India is hardly anyone goes with a calendar or appointments. Now, Amit, here's the thing. The culture in different countries is different. I fully get it. I mean, you go to other parts of the world, whether it's Asia, Africa, US, Far East, all cultures are have got different ways of working. But here's the thing. Are you allowing the appointments or the schedules, are they within the priorities or are they out of the priorities? That's number one. Number two, we mentioned learn to say no, but at the same time, we were speaking about, uh, you know, chunking out, and we spoke about slack time. So when we said 5 sessions of 50 minutes, what do we mean by that? Is that you need to allow for certain slack time. You will have certain disturbances. It could be the taxman who might come in, or it could be something which is so urgent that you need to attend to it. So you need to have slack time. We're not saying you don't need to have slack time. But what you really need to do is anybody coming in without any appointment, are they really, uh, you know, within that priority group? And you need to learn to say no if not. And we even said no to certain clients. So you'll say, why would you refuse business? Because if they do not align with our values and if the expectations are not something that they're not reasonable enough, Soin and I, we would refuse an assignment as well. So it's not only about learn to say no to just the team members itself, but it means also the stakeholders if it is not within our core focus, our core priorities. So that is important. Another important aspect you mentioned is you got a driver so that you could send out messages, which is fantastic. This is why we say effective delegation is going to help. If you delegate effectively, then you will be able to use your time more productively. And you need to make sure you have the right feedback mechanisms, because feedback is so important. Yet we see many businesses not really having the right feedback. We attend one meeting, they call it a board meeting. It was not a board meeting, it was completely a management driven meeting. It was all historical information. There was no forward looking insights that were shared. But here's the thing, is that there were certain actions which certain head of departments needed to take, but they were said, okay, we'll sort this out in the next meeting. But it didn't have that weight. There was no proper specifics in place either. So many decisions are being spilled over, and this is going to really hamper the growth of your organization. You have to be very specific, you have to be very clear, you have to communicate properly, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you have the right feedback mechanisms. So, in and I, we press upon all leaders that make sure you have the right feedback mechanisms, because that is going to lead to growth. That is what is going to lead to that impact and traction. And Amit said maybe it's due to domestic issues, perhaps, but like we say that this is key component. By the way, we have Jean Pierre. I hope I got the name right, from Kinshasa. So hi for attending. Hi John for attending this particular session. I hope all of you have found value in this particular session. Please send your comments, let us know, connect with us, send us a DM or direct message. If there's anything we can do to help you, we are happy to help. So, in and I here, just connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a direct message and we'll definitely help out. In the meantime, thank you so much for all your time. I'm sorry we ran a bit too late. We've spilled over our time limit, but we wanted to add as much value as we could, and we have condensed it as much as we could. So thank you so much for all of you who have attended, and I hope you enjoyed this 5 ways to avoid being overwhelmed as a leader session, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. So any last words?
No, thank you. I think you have summed up, and definitely, I'm sure our audience have enjoyed this session. And if at any stage you want to hear from us in terms of any topic, please get in touch with us. We will be delighted to share with you valuable nuggets as we always do. And apart from that, if anyone would like to take up us on our various services, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much, and a goodbye, and hope you have a fantastic day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye bye.